Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. It was a massive week in the courts. First of all, we had a bad one came out of the Seventh Circuit. The Seventh Circuit just went complete amateur hour on the Illinois semi-auto ban. It upheld the state's gun ban. It ignored Heller, ignored Bruin, and flipped the bird at the Supreme Court. But you could expect this decision to get body slammed by the Supreme. Second, the Supreme Court granted certiorari to the NRA case that challenges the New York State telling companies to not do business with the NRA or face regulatory retribution. It's not really a Second Amendment case, but it's a landmark challenge, and we'll be talking about that. Also, likely ending California's long-running war on gun shows. This week, a federal district court ruled that Gavin Newsom and his minions cannot block gun shows from public venues. This thing has been going on for more than a decade. We'll bring you up to speed on that. And then, of course, in 2 days, on Tuesday, in Washington, D.C., at the U.S. Supreme Court, we have the Rahimi case going to be argued. Rahimi is a bad dude. We all understand that. But this is a case that challenges the idea that you lose your constitutional rights when you are simply accused of a crime, not convicted of a crime. That is, when you have a domestic violence restraining order against you, which just means somebody accused you of something, and the court says, oh, well, okay, we'll just put a restraining order on you. You guys stay away from each other. You lose your ability to own a gun. That's the case that's going to be argued this Tuesday. But what's really interesting and has the potential, I would even say the likelihood, of crushing the ATF's corrupt practices of making up laws, including those on unfinished receivers, also impacting all the federal agencies which adopt regulations. The Supreme Court agreed to hear a challenge on the Trump-directed ban on bump stocks. That case is Garland versus Cargill. That's Michael Cargill. He has over 35 years of firearms experience. He's going to be coming on in just a second here. 35 years of firearms experience in the military, private sector, U.S. Army. He's taught more than 50,000 people the Texas private security and handgun licenses. Goes on. He owns the Central Texas Gun Works, a gun store in Austin, Texas. Joins us right now. Michael Cargill, thank you for being here.
Hey, Tom, how you doing, sir? Thank you for having me.
I am great. All right, let's start off here. This is the bump stock case. We know it's going to be bigger than that when it gets to the Supreme Court. Why did you start a fight with the U.S. government in challenging this ban?
You know, Tom, back when the shooting happened in 2017 in Las Vegas, it was alleged that, a guy used a bump stock to commit that crime. And so the federal government decided they were going to ban, the ATF decided they were going to ban bump stocks, because of that one crime. I shouldn't say little, but one
horrific crime, obviously a mass murder. But correct. Yes, you're right. And they just said, we're going to ban this accessory and we're going to reclassify it and say it's a machine gun.
Correct. And so, I thought it was crazy. And I reached out to a lot of different organizations, a lot of different people, and everyone was saying, including the NRA, everyone was saying, hey, we'll just go ahead and give up the bump stock. This is under the Trump administration. We'll just go ahead and give this up. We're not going to put up a fight or anything like that. And I said, no, this is crazy, because if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And bump stocks is not something that I was really concerned about, but I was concerned about where this was going once, another president steps into office.
Sure.
And
okay, so let me ask you, was this your Army background where you say, no, you don't give an inch on this thing. You can't give this up. We're not going to surrender.
Exactly. You cannot flip over. You can't surrender at all. We got to stand our ground and hold firm and not let anything. We're not going to give up anything at all. And so that's why I decided to file a lawsuit. Got with another nonprofit organization out there, some other, reached out to a bunch of different people. Mm-hmm. No one would actually assist me with this. Finally, someone came through. We were able to file the lawsuit in 2018, went up, made our way up to the courts. We finally made it up to the Fifth Circuit. Once we got up to the Fifth Circuit, we actually won in the Fifth Circuit. And that kind of changed everything once we won the Fifth Circuit, which was in January of 2023. And then now, here we are. This case is looking at, is heading to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court decided to take it in cert, which is great because we're talking about the Chevron deference. We're talking about, where agencies within our federal government, and this is back when SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, said, hey, these agencies, we're going to allow them, give them limited ability to make just minor corrections to laws that were passed, but it wasn't meant for them to go to the extent that they were going. So now you have organizations or agencies like the FDA, the EPA, the TSA, CDC, they're going out there and now they're just doing whatever they want to do to the full extent, just changing laws where they're turning millions of Americans into felons overnight.
Well, and Michael, and that's the point I wanted to make, is that we have agencies, bureaucratic agencies that are making up laws that have the weight of law that can send you to federal prison for decades when Congress, and actually no elected body ever passed these. And in the case of the bump stock ban, this is a case where the ATF first said they're okay. So a lot of people banked on that, just like they did with the stabilizing braces. Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's legal. And then they just flip right around and say, no, it's not okay. And if you own one, you'll go to jail because now you become a felon. And no one ever gave them the ability to reclassify these. Because the thing is, the U.S. law spells out, Congress passed laws that spell out what a machine gun is. The bump stock does not meet that criteria, so it is clearly not a machine gun. And, you got a great decision out of the Fifth Circuit, and the judges there did a wonderful job of writing it up. So what are your lawyers telling you about your chances at the Supreme Court?
Well, we're not expecting anything. We're going to expect to present this case to the best of our ability and throw it in the hands of the Supreme Court and hope that they decide in our favor.
Well, clearly, that's all you can do. What you ought to do? Tell people about this group who's working with you, because they're actually working on a couple of different gun cases. And for me, they came out of nowhere. I did not know about this group at all.
Well, because they were not into guns at all. They never did any gun cases whatsoever. And I was able to convince them to take on a gun case. We just weren't gun people. And they're called NCLA. It's called NCLA, is the name of the organization. And also, I'm working with TPPF as well, Texas Public Policy Foundation, on other cases as well that are all going toward the same end. So
this is not your only case you're going to be pushing?
Absolutely not. We have several cases that we're pushing for. This happens to be the biggest case, the one that's closest to the Supreme Court. So this case is key. It's just like you said, it is key because it has the ability to knock down everything that the ATF is doing in all different agencies within our federal government.
Well, actually, if you win this one, and I think you're going to, by the way, I think you're going to win this one. And at that point, it's not just bump stocks. It is the ATF's rule on pistol stabilizing braces. It's the ATF's rule on unfinished receivers. And it's the ATF's willingness and eagerness to reclassify things to ban as much as they possibly can to try to put more people in jail. And also, at a certain point, we're going to have to revisit the ATF's goal right now, which is to put as many gun stores, FFLs, out of business as possible. And they're doing a booming business at running people out. And Michael, you know this because you run a gun store, and they do it by intimidating gun stores to the point where they say, I'll just give up my license. They don't even have to charge them. They just make it so difficult, they make them give up their license.
Correct. And we saw this because they walked into my door and into our shop right before the 4th of July and did a surprise inspection. And keep in mind, I have several cases against the ATF. So they're actually not supposed to do that since I have a current case in court, especially one going toward the Supreme Court. They're supposed to notify my attorneys that they're going to be on the premises. They walked in, surprise inspection, and, man, they tried to hit me with everything. They checked. They went to all different departments in the state of Texas to make sure that everything was compliant, comptroller, everything you can possibly think of. They checked every single thing, every crevice, and they tried their darndest to come up with something. Luckily, we were doing everything right. Even going into a holiday, weekend there, we did everything right, and we passed our inspection with flying colors.
I think that they didn't actually understand who they were dealing with, Michael.
Well, I was just happy that my employees were doing the right thing. Like I said, it's the holiday season. Everyone's busy. I can see how some people can have small little mistakes and small little paperwork errors. So that stuff does happen.
Right. Hey, Michael, I appreciate what you're doing. And, the case is Cargill. It's actually Garland versus Cargill, Cargill being you, Michael Cargill. It is the bump stock case. I think the ATF's going to lose. I think the federal government's going to lose. I think you're going to win, which means gun owners win, which means Americans win. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate that. This is for the American people. This is about the Constitution. This is about our freedom.
There it is, Michael Cargill. All righty. 866-TALK-GUN. It is a big time right now. We'll be covering some more of these cases. Also, when it's good enough, not good enough when you're buying gear, when should you pay extra money? Be right back.